And welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, they say you educate a man, you educate a man. But if you educate a woman, you educate an entire generation. I'm not saying that because I'm a woman, but it is what it is. And of course, a report by World Bank's 2018 Kenya Economic Report did state that 35.6% of the population lives below $1 a day in Kenya. And the situation is even worse for women, especially those in the rural areas and from the urban slums. And now with me in studio is Miss Dorothy Ombajo, who is the County Director, Pangea Network. And on my extreme left, we have Miss Monica Auma Odhiambo, who is a program beneficiary of Pangea Network Ladies. Karibu. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now on to you, Miss Dorothy. Why is empowerment of women in rural areas and urban slums so important?
Empowerment of women in rural areas and slums is so important because, as you have said, the statistics is 35% of the women in the world are poorer than men, and 24% of these women, especially in Kenya, live in the rural and in the slum areas. So they are more disadvantaged because of the many challenges they face. These are many women that have no formal kind of education, and they have no, because of no formal education, they have no access to services, they have no access to knowledge, and they provide for their families. So it's important for these women to be empowered so that they are able to understand what services are nearer to them, what resources are nearer to them, so that they can make use of these resources, and through that they contribute to the general economy of the country. So the majority of the women live in these areas. Only 24% live in the urban.
And I assume that is what Pangea Network is all about. So tell us, as the County Director, Pangea Network, what do you do as Pangea Network? What counties have you reached in the country?
So Pangea Network actually came in to bridge this gap. And we work in Kwale, we work in Mombasa, we work in Vihiga, we work in Siaya, we work in Nairobi, and we work in Homa Bay. And we work with women from the grassroots, the normal common chama wa mama, that come together to do table banking, and then they do merry-go-round. But we take it a notch higher by actually working with these groups. We train them. And they go through a 6-month training, and after the training, they get a revolving fund to set up their businesses. The trainings include human rights, leadership, basic business skills, bookkeeping, personal development, and food and nutrition. And I would say, why human rights? Because this is business, you see. But you need to know your rights. You need to know who you are. You need to know the laws that protect you before even you understand yourself. Because these are women, as I told you earlier, who don't have formal education. So they don't even know, if somebody violates me, how do I go to where is the local chief, or what is the protocol that I should follow? So once they have this knowledge and they're empowered, then they need to know what is the role of their leaders. So we teach them leadership. And then they have business skills to learn how to do businesses, to know how to keep their books at their level. And then personal development, because they are overwhelmed with a lot of challenges and they need to rediscover themselves to build their self-esteem. Once that is done, they are good to go with their businesses, even if it's the local mama mboga who's selling vegetables. But you know, if you are presentable and you're proud of what you do, you find that your income also goes up. And food and nutrition, because they have families to feed. Within their local setup, how do you budget with 200? You don't need to have 1,000 shillings to have a balanced diet. So they go through these trainings, and after the trainings, they graduate, and it's a big day for them Because during the graduation, if you never went to any high school, you know, your first time to actually graduate, it's a big thing. So you find even their families come to support them. And that also lifts their spirit and gives them hope. And once the graduation is done, we inject our seed money into the group. We call them cooperatives. And they borrow from these cooperatives and repay within the cooperatives to build their capital base. So basically, that is what Pangia does with the women, and we've done it in the counties that I mentioned before, and we've seen success, and we've seen women who we thought really did not have hope, get hope, be able to take their children to school, be able to provide and supplement incomes for their husbands and families. And some of their businesses have also employed family members, which has created employment.
Okay. Now, Monica, Auma, I'll be coming to you shortly, but Dorothy, you did mention a 6-month training is involved, right?
Yes.
Are there any costs involved in this?
From the women, no. On our end, yes, because we have to have a trainer, expert. We have to give materials. Most of these women have to give like 3 days in a month, full days. So you see, they'll have to stop whatever they are doing to attend these trainings. So on our end, as an organization, yeah, there are a lot of costs that are involved, yes.
Okay. So Monica, it's your turn now.
Okay.
Tell us your story. You're a beneficiary of this network. Tell us your story.
Thank you. I've benefited a lot in Pangia network through how you have said, we have been trained and we become a successful entrepreneurs. Now we can do our businesses safely. We know how to keep our books. We know how to manage ourselves. We even go far to bring our children to schools. Like me, I'm very successful in that. My kids have learned, and they are now can get their formal education easily, which I would have not have if I would have not joined with the Pangia.
Sure.
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 Thanks.
Monica, you've mentioned some of the a success story, like being able to educate your children. But what has this program or the network done to you as a woman? How has it helped you?
They trained me. As I've said, I've become a successful entrepreneur. And they empowered me with some funds, as they have said. Now we can improve now my businesses. I'm a businesswoman. That through those funds, I managed to improve my businesses, and I earn my livings from that.
Okay.
Yes.
Dorothy, you did mention some of the counties that is a network you are in, but just an estimate, how many people have you reached so far?
I would say since 2007 to date, about 3,000 women. Yeah.
Wow, 3,000.
Yes.
Wow. And with Monica being like one of the participants in this network, how do you source your participants? How do you get to know, I'm going to work with Monica, I'm not going to work with Grace? How does it go about?
It's strange how we started. It was really small. We started in through the churches like Mothers Union, and in Kwale, our entry point was through the local chief administration. But then after training and after like a year, we thought the best way to sustain this program is the women who had been trained to actually mentor other groups. So through mentorship from the women who had already been trained, we go training the other groups. So it's like, if I train a group in Kwale today, within that area I'll have like 5 or 6 groups that will be mentored by other groups there. So that is how we get our participants. So they apply, and then we go and do a vetting, but they have to be recommended with a group that is already existing in that area, because we encourage these groups to form a network, that we call ourselves a network, and also to mentor the groups. Yeah.
Monica, how was it for you when you were joining the network, basing on what Dorothy has said? What was the experience like for you?
It was like I feel it better to join them, such that I could be empowered. So I got to get those strengths, and I also urge some other women to join me, such that we can move together. And I managed that. So we form a group, we registered it, and now we are moving on.
Okay, now you're moving on.
Yeah.
Dorothy, when you were starting the network, of course there are goals that you had, the things you want to achieve. Perhaps you set a specific timeline to achieve them. Have you achieved the goals so far? What were some of the goals in the first place, and have you achieved them?
Some of the goals when we were starting the network was actually to mentor or have very many women have a network, like formalize their normal groups, you know, the merry-go-rounds. And then when we started, we were thinking like 1,500 women, I think that will be done. And over the years, it's been really growing, and it's been overwhelming, I would say. So we only take what we are able to manage. And then when we were starting also the network, the training per se, because we worked on a training kind of manual that we were testing at that time, which has now worked, and it's something I can share with anyone because I've seen its work. So when we started the manual, some of the things really worked, some of them were not practical. So the manual kept getting better over the years. And we went back like to our first beneficiaries groups to find out how are they doing after 3 years, 4 years. And then we've realized that it really goes a long way, the knowledge that was impacted. And businesses have grown, they have had branches, and more women have been trained and many people have been employed. So some of the goals that we had set that was just to improve a woman's life, we've realized we've improved the whole family, a community, a village, and most of our women also have taken up leadership roles within their communities, in the churches, in the local schools. So they've become very vocal and members of the society that actually are standing out, which makes everywhere we go to work, everyone wants, like, there's a group for Pangea over here. Yeah.
Now, as the county director, Dorothy, on a personal level, you've mentioned some of the success stories that you've had over the years, but what has been the highlight for you on a personal level? Is there a particular woman that perhaps you dealt with that, you know, made a great impact for you?
One of the highlights for me is one of my beneficiaries that I have here today. When we started working with Monica, she comes from a group in Mukuru in South B, and she didn't have formal education, but you can hear today she can speak English. And she actually took a step of faith and went back to school. And with the income she was getting from her business, apart from educating her children, she has also educated herself. So, coming from a professional background, I'm an advocate by profession that changed professions to get into this humanitarian kind of work, the development work, which was a whole new field for me. It was really touching for me to see people who are not able to have an opportunity to go to school. Actually, after training and after doing business for a year or two, their desire is to go back to school, to learn how to read and write. So to me, that has been one of the things that has kept me really going, because at a personal level, they feel like, okay, we are able to provide, but what about myself? What am I doing for myself?
Sure.
Yeah.
That has been the highlight, and we'll be getting to the challenges in a few. But Monica, she's mentioned about you going back to school. Tell us a little bit about it, the experience that you had.
Yes, I, I got it better because when I did my standard 8,
Yes.
I managed to be called in a national school. But due to lack of finance, I was brought to school, but I didn't get it the way I needed to be. So I dropped it somewhere. But when I joined the Panjia, I feel it better because, as he has said, I was, I was her, the best one.
Yes.
So I feel it better to have that formal education, such that I could go further than where I would like to be. So I go back to school and I manage it. Yes.
Oh, and we're really happy for you.
Yes.
Now, Dorothy, the challenges. In every
Yes.
journey, there has to be, you know, the highs and the lows. What are some of the challenges that you have experienced, that the network has experienced?
One of the first challenges I encountered, I would say, which stands so much in my life, was in Kwale County. When I went to do training, we got groups there, about, I'll say 120 women. Out of 120 women, only 10 could read and write. And I was like, this is not happening. How am I supposed to teach people who can't read and write? And after a long talk with the gender officer there, and the chief and the sub-chief and the DO, and they say, I think, Dorothy, we could try. These women really need help. And I kept on telling my team, like, how are we going to do it? So we got back and got to their level with our training manual to see how they could be trained. So we did the basic training of, like in bookkeeping, we had to use like money bank boxes to see this is where profit goes, this is where you put your capital, you see, practical thing. And after training these women, after a year, I was really shocked on how well their businesses were doing and how well the knowledge, they were applying the knowledge. So then I learned, like, anyone can be trained. You really don't have to have formal education. That was my first challenge. And the second challenge was, after that, the overwhelming of very many groups wanting to be trained. We are on a shoestring budget. We have less manpower. So those are some of the challenges we have faced. And then cultural shocks. You see, that is more Muslim dominated. So you have to be very sensitive. I once went for training during Ramadan, and I'm carrying refreshments and water with me. And the women are looking at me, and I'm wondering, like, what's the problem? After training, I'm saying, like, pass around the sodas. And they're saying, no, we are fasting. So I was kind of shocked and felt very insensitive. So I've learned also to be very sensitive to different cultures in this work and how to handle people. And because sometimes you find if someone doesn't have formal education, the first impression they have is unamdharau. So you have to be very careful on how you talk and how you pass your message. Yeah. So those are some of the challenges we've had. Being a Christian, wanting to work with Muslims, or Muslims and Christians together. So such kind of challenges of mixed groups and cultural barriers here and there that affects women. Yeah.
The religion barriers,
Yes.
so you said. You did mention about the budget, and earlier on you talked about the cost largely being on you as opposed to them, the beneficiaries. So where do you get your funds? Who funds you?
We get our funds from well-wishers, that one, and we do fundraising. Most of our women actually that train, some of them trained in different things like beadwork, handicrafts. We also try to market that, so they sell them to us at a cost, and then we sell them to raise funds. So we hold galas. Our main supporter has been our main office in the US, which has been really trying to raise funds by holding galas and having people sign up as donors. Yeah.
I want to engage you both in this because I want us to make it a bit broad. There's this notion, you're working with women, she's a woman, we're all women here. There's this notion of women being their or our own enemies. You understand? You don't want to see a fellow woman prosper, you don't want to see a fellow woman doing better than you. What do you have to say about that?
I think it's stereotype thinking.
And have you experienced it in your network?
Yes. Mostly stereotype thinking, but what happens with women, I work with women like it's a women group. So within the women group we have officials, we have members. So why we deal with leadership as a training a lot is to make people live in harmony within this cooperative. You find there's a lot of issues, especially when people's businesses have been set up and they've now picked up. Other women feel they are better than others. So you will find like in a meeting, they say, I don't even think what you're telling, what are you telling me? You see, my business is doing this and your business is, you see, such kind of things. But I would not say it's women being enemies of women. It's just how God made us. We are different. And I've always told the women that don't use this to bring yourself down, but use it as a gift to lift yourself. I think it's a strange way of how women care for each other. That's how I take it. Because you find they always want to bring you down. So the best way to do it is take it positively and use it to your advantage. If you do that, you'll feel like it's no longer a challenge, but a way. I think we are more unique than men, you know. They keep a lot inside, and then I think they have their own challenges that are not so much exposed because as we talk a lot. But the truth is, women are not enemies of each other. Women love challenging each other openly. So the best thing is take that challenge positively, not negatively. Yeah.
Take the challenge positively, not negatively. Monica,
Yes.
women being their own enemies, have you experienced this?
Yes, I've experienced it a lot. Even in my group, the group I formed, I noticed that. But because we have been trained in leadership, I recognize that you have to be down when you want to lead. So you have to overcome everything which will come across you, and that one is what we did. But it is there in women. They don't love what is now getting on some other one. And everyone wants to be a leader. And you could get it. There are some who cannot manage it, as he has said. They lack that formal education. And they want to be in front line. So it becomes difficult to convince them, but you have to use some tactics in such that they could come down and you look any way out which can unite you together. And you have to look at as you are all in one team. Not you saw yourself that you are bigger than them. And just come down. And that is what I used to do. Yes.
Dorothy, as women, there's so much economic potential in women. But as we started, there are actually women in Kenya, for example, are said to be poorer than men. What is it that you think hinders women from achieving their economic potential?
One thing that hinders women in this country from achieving their economic potential is information, the knowledge. Very few people understand what it takes to actually help women. You see, you think like, if I give you 100,000 today, I've solved your problems. And I would say that's not the case, because you need to have the information. What are you going to do with the 100,000? How are you going to use it, you see? So women don't get access to this information, especially most of the women that in the slums and the rural area. There's so much out there that they can do, but they don't even know that they can do it, you see. So they need someone to actually hold their hands and let them know we can do this. And I tell you, women have so much energy. They can endure a lot. So with the right information and support, I think they can turn the economy of this country around. For example, if we have women in the rural areas, all their children are able to go to school, they can buy the uniform, which might cost even just 500 shillings, which they cannot afford. And we have them doing farming, because I have some women just doing farming. And so they are providing food and selling food within their local setup. You see, there'll be no problem of hunger, you see, out there. And there'll be so many things they can do. But they lack the information, they lack the resources. Yeah.
Let's keep it a bit broad and talk about, for instance, the two-third gender role. We saw a lot of effort to have it passed last year, in Parliament, but that did not happen. What's your take on this? Is there a fight against women?
My take on this is the two-third gender rule is misconstrued, because I think most people think it's supposed to bring more women. I think it's supposed to lift women. So if you understand what it would do, then you would support it. Because we need more women to come out. And once they come out, it will help. But you see, most of the people think like, these people want the numbers. It's not about the numbers. It's about the impact. And it's about letting these people who don't know what they should know, then they come forward to do it. So I think it should be supported. But you see, everyone says it's either it's girl, child, woman, girl, child, woman. So that negativity, yes. I think it's around the two-third. Yeah.
Now, Dorothy, Monica, I will be coming back to you for your closing remarks, but you have to take a short commercial break, of course, keep the conversation going. Women empowerment, of course, at